Hello everyone. So far we have seen that an agreement would be enforceable by law if it has a valid offer, acceptance, consideration and is entered into by parties capable of entering into an agreement, and the consent given by the parties is not vitiated by mistake, misrepresentation, fraud, undue influence or coercion. A contract, in order to be valid, should have been entered into for a legal object. In this presentation, we will focus on what legal object is and what are the circumstances under which the object or consideration of an agreement is considered unlawful. When the object or consideration of the agreement is forbidden by law, or when the nature of the object is such that if permitted it would defeat the provisions of law, or where the object is fraudulent or involves injury to person or property, or where it is immoral or against public policy, the object or consideration is considered to be unlawful. Where a government servant, promises to process the application of B for license out of turn, and B promises to pay rupees 1 lakh to A for this favor, the agreement is void because the consideration is unlawful. Where a police officer promises to close the FIR against B for cheating and B promises to pay 50,000 for it, the agreement is void because the object is unlawful. Is there a difference between an unlawful agreement and an illegal agreement? Unlawful agreement is one which is not enforceable by law. They are non-criminal in nature, not immoral, but only opposed to public policy. It is void ab initio and affects the parties to the agreement and no further. An illegal agreement involves commission of a crime or an element of immorality or some wicked attribute or is opposed to public morals. An illegal agreement is not only void between the immediate parties but taints the collateral transactions also with illegality. What are the effects of illegality? The general rule is that no action is allowed on an illegal agreement. This is based on two maxims. One, no action arises for a base cause, and two, in cases of equal guilt, the defendant is in a better position. Where the agreement is illegal, any collateral transaction to such agreement is treated as illegal, though such transaction standing alone may be lawful. Action cannot be taken to recover any money paid or property transferred under an illegal agreement or for breach of an illegal agreement. For example, A lends rupees 10,000 to B to help him buy some prohibited goods from C. If B enters into an agreement with C for purchasing the goods, the agreement is illegal and the agreement between A and B also becomes illegal as it is collateral to the main transaction, which is illegal. Here, A cannot recover the amount if he knows the purpose for which B is borrowing the money and lends it to B. Where the plaintiff is not equally guilty with the defendant, or where he is not relying on illegal transaction, or where substantial portion of an illegal transaction has not been carried out and he repents about the agreement, the plaintiff can sue and recover the money paid or property delivered. Now, supposing a contract consists of several promises, some of which are legal and some illegal. In such a situation, if the illegal promises can be separated from the legal one, court will enforce legal promises. If they cannot be separated, the whole contract is declared illegal. Where persons reciprocally promise first to do certain things which are legal and then under certain specified circumstances to do certain other things which are illegal, the first set of promises is a contract but the second is a void agreement. For example, A gives on rent his house to B and B promises to pay rupees 15,000 per month as rent. B also agrees to pay rupees 30,000 to A whenever he uses the house as club for gambling. Here, the first set of promises is a contract and not the second one. Where there is an alternative promise, one branch of which is legal and the other illegal, the legal branch can be enforced but not the illegal one. Supposing A agrees to pay B rupees 5,000 for which B would deliver rice to A or some smuggled goods. There is a valid contract to deliver rice and a void agreement as to smuggled goods. When there are several objects but a single consideration and one of the objects is unlawful, the agreement is void. Where there is a single object and several considerations, the agreement is void if any one of the considerations is unlawful. What are immoral agreements? These are agreements based on sexual immorality and are concerned with illicit cohabitation or for some immoral purpose. An agreement for illegal cohabitation is immoral and hence illegal and cannot be enforced. Agreements for immediate separation or past separation are valid, but agreements for future separation are immoral and hence void. Agreements opposed to public policy. Agreements opposed to public policy are void. An agreement which is harmful to public welfare or public good is said to be opposed to public policy. Agreements of trading with enemy are opposed to public policy and hence are void. Agreements interfering with administration of justice, like interfering with the course of justice, stifling or obstructing a prosecution, maintenance and champerty are opposed to public policy. Maintenance is an agreement to assist in bringing or defending legal proceedings when the person assisting it has no interest in it. Champerty is an agreement where one party assists another to bring an action for recovery of money or property and takes a share in the proceeds of the action. Agreements restraining legal proceedings, wherein a party is prevented from enforcing a right or curtailing the period of limitation prescribed by law of limitation, are against public policy and hence are void. Agreements wherein public offices and titles are bought or sold. Agreements creating interest opposed to duty. Agreements restricting parental rights. Agreements restricting personal liberty. And agreements restricting marriage are all void because they are opposed to public policy. Agreement to procure the marriage of another for a monetary consideration, that is, marriage brokerage agreements, are also void. A promise by a married person to marry during the lifetime of the spouse or after his or her death, an agreement in contemplation of a divorce, or an agreement that the husband and wife will stay in wife's place and wife will not leave her parental house, are considered as agreements interfering with marital duties and are void as opposed to public policy. Agreements to defraud creditors or revenue authorities are also void. Agreements that interfere with the liberty of a person to engage himself in any lawful trade, profession, or occupation is an agreement in restraint of trade, and such agreement is void. The exceptions to this rule are agreements for sale of goodwill, that is, reputation in the business, agreements of partners where some partners restrain other partners in anticipation of dissolution of the firm from carrying on same business for a specified period or within a specified local limits. These are not void agreements. When trade combination tends to create monopoly or avoid competition which is against public interest, it is void. Service agreements wherein an employee is prevented from accepting any other engagement during his employment can be valid. But an agreement preventing him from any other similar engagement after termination of his service is void if it is done with an intention to avoid competition. When it is intended to prevent him from making use of trade secrets learnt by him in the course of employment, the restraint is valid. An employer cannot prevent an employee from earning his livelihood by using his skill and knowledge because there cannot be any public interest which compels to make the skill and knowledge useless for the employee. So this is about the legality of object and of consideration in brief. Thank you.